Hello, I'm Martin McConnell, the Public Information Officer for Ascension Parish Government, and welcome to another one of our departmental profiles. This is a special departmental profile because it involves the cooperation of all of the different departments in Ascension Parish Government, and it's bringing a very special service to you, our citizens of Ascension Parish, and we're calling it the Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center. Now, joining us right now, we have Parish President Kenny Matassa and Director of Technology Brandon O'Day. They're here to tell us how this thing got started, what it is, and what we had to do to get to it. President Matassa, thank you for being here, for putting all of this together.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. This is very important to the operation of Ascension Parish and our citizens. When I was elected in 2016, in January, I started looking at all the departments, and I saw we had a void of communication to make us more accountable to the citizens. And I was looking at what to do, and I was reading different things of different parishes, and I was talking to O'Day and different ones to see what we can do. And William Daniels came aboard with Ascension Parish, and I got William to start talking with Brandon, and I tasked them to go to East Baton Rouge to see their operation. And so Brandon and a group of our people went to East Baton Rouge.
East Baton Rouge has what they call the 311 system. And this is, I guess, to get everybody on the same footing, what the parish president discovered was that there are many different areas of parish government, and we offer many different services to the people, but who do you know, how do you know who to call and what number to call? East Baton Rouge has 311. What did we have, Brandon?
Right, yeah. So, as the parish has grown, we've kind of stuck to our same business model where each department kind of has their own main line, right? And the trend that we were seeing is that people were getting transferred a lot, and there was no way to truly log all these calls that were coming in to see how many calls we were getting, what were the calls for, and then to kind of tie that into our work order system to then say, okay, these calls that were coming in, are we completing the work that's associated with those calls in a timely fashion, and that type of thing. So whenever we visited Baton Rouge, one of the first things that we learned is that centralizing all these numbers into one place was the way to do it. So whenever we came back from Baton Rouge, we met with the administration, we met with some council members, and we decided to put together a beta program. And with the majority of calls that the parish gets happens to go to DPW, we put that beta program together, and we set it up at DPW. And we learned a lot of things from that, good and bad, that we then used to implement what is today the Citizen Services Center.
Now, Parish President, when you first got elected, I mean, this was one of many changes or many improvements that you proposed. This was we were also in the process of changing out the entire software system, computer system, if you will, for layman term, for the parish that would integrate everything. Is all of this part of that? Is this a separate thing? I mean, we have a.
Well, what we did in talking with Brandon, I told him the main thing is got to all be compatible. We're spending a lot of money to go with a new software system, and any aspect of our departments has to be compatible to this system. And so Brandon did his research, and working with them made it happen.
So how does this system work? I mean, what?
Yeah. So again, the main goal was to make sure that all the systems talk to each other, right? So that you don't have these silos of data sitting in multiple different places. A great example of this is the ability to display the data that we have on a map. Because a map is very easy for the common person to look at and to see data points on a map and try to figure out, what is it that you're trying to tell me with this. So we wanted the software, in this particular case with the Citizen Service Center, we wanted it to be able to be displayed on a map. And in order to do that, you got to have address information, you got to have XY coordinates and other technical stuff that I won't get into. But in order for these systems to talk to each other, we needed to make sure that it was capable of being put inside of a mapping system.
So you mentioned that because most of the calls went to DPW, that's where you put the beta system in to do the testing of it and so forth. But we're going to find out later in the program that it in fact is not housed at DPW. How did that come about?
Well, in talking with the group in Brandon, like you just said, I thought that it should be where we were getting most of the calls. But after further discussion and talking with Rick Weber.
Rick Weber's the Director of Emergency Homeland Security
right.
and Emergency Preparedness, yeah.
That we already had, when we had a catastrophe, we had that center to take all the calls and everything in the parish. So we talked about it and said this should be the best place to house this, because when we do have a catastrophe, we're there, and
it's already
just
the
gotta expand on
communication
it.
center for
Right.
the parish. They've
Right.
got all the lines coming, the computer lines. They got the generators to keep them up and running. So yeah,
Correct. And one thing that, well, when I was first elected, I'd get calls from people and said, well, I called 6 times and nobody called me back and stuff like that. So this will give us accountability. I'm not saying the people didn't call 6 times or if they called 2 times or whatever, but this is actually going to show you exactly what's going on.
I know exactly what you're talking about. In my position, it's public information. I get calls from constituents, and they'll say, "Well, I've called and I've left messages, and no one called me back." But you're right. This system, it will log the call. It will say this person called on this time at this day, and you can actually follow it through the whole program. Once you log that call in there and make the complaint, it's assigned to the department where it needs to go, and then you can follow it throughout until it is till it's completed.
Right.
And Brandon, we talked about all the different departments that had to come come to the table to make this happen. But you're the technology department of Ascension Parish government. Y'all are you're really first class operation. There's so much that you have done for us.
Thank you, Martin.
All of that, the GIS map. I don't think people realize just how complicated that whole thing is. Doing the mapping and the logging and the follow-up and spreading it all about. So I'm really happy that the administration was able to bring everybody to the table, get it done. Everybody did their part, and now we have an Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center, and people can access it either by telephone or they can access it over the internet. They can do it by email. They can do it online. It's a great system, and it's very user-friendly. We're going to learn more about that a little later in this program. We'll be talking to Rick Weber and Rachel Wilkinson with OEP, where the system is actually housed. But if it weren't for you two gentlemen, we wouldn't have got it done in the first place. So thank you very much for doing
You're
that.
very welcome, and it's all about making Ascension Parish a better place to live for our citizens. The council has worked with us on this project, and they all for it, and it will help a councilman in their districts to find out what's going on in their districts. So it's all good for the citizens, and we strive to do better all the time, and this is one aspect of doing that.
Well, you hit a home run on this one, President Matassa, Brandon O'Day. Thank you all very much for being here. Is there something I forget? Are we forgetting something that?
I think that's covered, other than
We covered it,
we
yeah.
are working to tweak this system. We just started in January, and we're striving to make it perfect.
Yeah, we're still learning things as we go. Just as with whenever we launched this at DPW, whenever we were in that beta program, we had all the calls coming in through an automated system. And one of the things that we learned was people don't like talking to a machine. So we took that lesson learned, and as it is implemented today, you have a person, a warm body that's answering the phone and asking you the right questions that they need to get the request in.
And that really does help make the parish a lot more accountable to the citizens, to the people of the parish. And I mean, it's all about getting things done, providing services to the people.
Right.
So a little bit later in the program, we're going to hear from OEP Director Rick Weber and Assistant Director Rachel Wilkinson, and they're going to tell us about the meat of the program once it went over to emergency preparedness, what they've done with it, and how it actually works, and the nuts and bolts, and how to sign on. So President Matassa, Brandon O'Day, thank you very much for being here. Please stay with us. In a moment, we will learn more about this great program, the Ascension Citizen Service Center. Please join us.
When you're rolling with your crew, or floating down a bayou, you can do something great to help our beautiful state. Love the blue and don't pollute. When you're watching a parade, or eating snowballs in the shade, we can do it as a team. Keep our Louisiana clean. Love the blue and don't pollute. I said love the blue and don't pollute. Let's keep our Louisiana beautiful, y'all.
Welcome back to our discussion about the Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center. And joining us right now to tell us all about the real meat of the program, how it works and how it benefits you, is the Ascension Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director. That's a mouthful.
That's it, more.
The OSEP Director.
Right.
Rick Weber, and the Assistant Director is Rachel Wilkinson. Thank you both for joining us to tell us all about this great program. We learned a little earlier how it came about, the genesis of it and the beginnings, but how did it end up with you in OEP?
Well, look, we appreciate being here, Morton, and we want to do as much of a public outreach piece on this to get the public involved as much as possible. The original concept, when the parish president, Kenny Matassa, said he wanted a call center, it kind of bounced around from a couple of different offices. But because of the communications infrastructure that we have in the Emergency Operations Center and Homeland Security, it knew that we had the capacity to communicate with the public. So that's one of the big factors that it fell into the office. So that's one reason that it's there. But again, in April, none of this existed. We had none of this in place, so everything has been designed and developed since April of 2018.
But it's housed in there now, and it does make sense because you're a specialist in communications. You have that facility there, and then you have the staff for it as well to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, a key factor is that when they asked me to take it over, one of the things that I requested was that the call center operators or the representatives in the call center would be cross-trained as emergency managers also. So when we did have a natural disaster, it was just a really easy flow to put them into that situation to where they can assist us during natural disasters. So that was one of the key factors of moving it into the Emergency Operations Center.
And Rachel, you are the managing director and assistant. In addition to being assistant director of OEP, you are the managing director of the call center. So how many people are we talking about?
We have 3 representatives that are Ascension Parish government employees, and their office is inside the Emergency Operations Center. So when you call the call center, you would actually speak to one of our representatives.
And I think that's important for people to know. When they call this call center, they will speak to a live person.
Yes.
If they call, let's talk about the hours.
We're regular government hours, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4:30. And then on Fridays, 8 to 11:30.
So if you call during the week, during those hours, you will
will
get
speak to
a
a
live
representative.
person. And then after hours, after that time?
After hours, we have a voicemail system. You can leave a voicemail. And 24/7, you can always request an online request on the website, ascensionparish.net. And then we have a citizen service request on an icon on the side, and you can submit an online request.
Yeah, I'll make sure people know that too. If you go to the parish website, ascensionparish.net, right there, a great big icon on the top left side of the page.
Correct.
It says the Ascension Citizen Service Center.
Correct.
And there are two buttons you can click on. One is to put in a request.
Correct.
So, all right, I want to put in a request. I click on that button. Then what happens?
You have two options. The first option is to submit a request online through the online system. And then there's a dashboard. The dashboard will bring you to a public interactive map that will show all the work orders. On that map, you can also, on the side, has make a new request, and you can submit a new request that way.
Okay, do you have to sign up? What kind of information does
It's
do
a
they have
program
to
that you
have?
sign up with. You need an email address and then your address, and then you put the service or the problem, and that gets sent to our call center. And then the representatives check it every morning and every afternoon, and then they will call the resident back, and we will submit the work order on their behalf.
And Rick, I know that you've been having meetings with the various supervisors throughout the parish, working out the bugs. This thing went live on January 2nd.
Yes.
So you've already been receiving calls. I looked online this morning. I think there are over 400
Yes.
requests in the system right now. So
And it's going to grow. I think it's going to be an integral system in the parish as it grows. But if we could back up just a minute, what was the purpose, or what was the impetus behind this developing it in the first place? If you look at a request for government services is usually motivated by a need that the residents had, and what was happening is that they would call one of our numbers and it would get bounced around from department to department until they tried to find a service that they needed, and it could be frustrating for some residents to do that. And historically what happened, they'd get frustrated and call the councilman because they knew who they voted for. And it forced our councilmen to become brokers for parish government services. So this was the need that we saw, the reason why we wanted to do this. So starting in April, we went to this Avaya system, the same system that the 911 center uses. So we got that as a telephone backbone. And then we're working with South Central Planning Commission that developed the work order system for us. So when a call does come in, a work order is put in immediately. So that's the back of the house system that the public doesn't see. And then IT and Brandon O'Day did a fabulous job of developing a front of the house portal that the public sees, that they can track their work on through the life cycle of the entire project. So.
And you are so right. I mean, I've fielded a lot of telephone calls from frustrated citizens. They said, I've called this one, I've called that one, I don't know who to call, this is an issue I have, I've left messages for people, or I don't know who to call because I'm not familiar with parish government. And the beauty of this system is when they call or when they go online, it's registered, it becomes an official
Work order.
work
request.
order.
Well, look, secondary to this thing is another benefit is that now this thing is clusters work in certain areas. So now the administration, the parish president, Kenny, and the CAO, and the council can look at resources and asset requirements for this. This is exactly what the public is asking for. They're calling in and telling them this is what we need. So do we have the resources and assets to address these issues that are coming in from the public? So it's going to be a fantastic tool.
It is. It's a wonderful tool, and there is not only a way for the citizens to track the progress of their request, it's also a follow-up system for parish administrators, right? How does that work?
The map is interactive, so once the caller calls in and the resident requests, we give them a request number. They can always go online to the map and put their request in and see the progression of the work order, as well as our council, as well as administration.
They can see who it's been assigned to, what
Correct.
department it has been, where it is in the system, where it is in progress, if somebody has come out to look at their issue or whatever.
All the
And
status and all the updates get entered into the work order. So yes, when you go in and put your work order number in, you would be able to see the status of your request.
And I want to give you credit, Rick, and your whole department, in that this has not been a monolithic function at all, because I know I've sat through several training sessions that your department has put on, and the various members of your department who are overseeing the various things. They have all made their presentations. Again, I know you've been meeting with the different supervisors to work out all the kinks and to work out all of the bugs. So you're making sure that parish employees know know how this system works.
And strategically, we had to look at every department, and we've got over 160 service categories assigned throughout parish government. So we had to look at the departments and the service categories that they provide, and then who is in charge of that service category. So the system had to mirror that. So we're going from department to department. We're looking at how that department is structured, and how do we make this system best benefit the public and the department at the same time, so they can communicate. So we put a face on that department that's communicating directly back to the resident that put in the request.
Yeah, it apparently is working well. I checked it this morning. You've only been live for 2 weeks now,
Yes.
with some holidays in
Yes.
there, and there are over 400 requests.
Yeah.
And when we talked about the interactive map, okay, let's go back to ascensionparish.net, the logo for the Ascension
Correct.
Citizen Service Center, Ascension Parish Citizen Service Center. That's another mouthful. You OEP, y'all like your acronyms. We're going to have to come up with a name.
CSC.
For that. CSC. Okay. You would click on that says see the map or see the progress. It brings up a map. You have your choice of backgrounds. You can put it as a street map, as a Google Earth map, as a district overlay map, or whatever. It's got the different. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. You can.
What helps management too is that you can filter by department, you can filter by council districts, or you can filter by a number of different means, so you can see what's happening in a geographical area of the parish.
And so much of this was developed in-house.
Yeah, again, we got a front of the house system that's available to the public, and a back of the house system for the nuts and bolts of how we do things. The front of the house system was completely developed by Brian Martinez and Brandon O'Day in IT. Great job. I mean, I don't know of any other parish in the state that has something that's this comprehensive that represents what's happening with these service categories. Great job.
I know for a while we didn't see Brian around here very much because he was always
he was
across
very-
the street
yeah.
working with you all, and it's just wonderful. This is something that is really tailor-made for Ascension Parish, for Ascension Parish government, for Ascension Parish people. And
look, the potential that it has is unbelievable. I mean, let me give you an idea. We're going to take the next 90 days to do an evaluation, and when we're trying to get all the kinks out, and for the next version to come out, we're going to make these adjustments. But we gather in this data for the next 90 days. In addition to the telephone system and the work order system monitors that each operator has, there's a radio next to it. So it has the potential to communicate directly with public works crews out in the field, or drainage crews. A potential to put GPS on every vehicle so we can track the vehicles while they're moving. So much potential here. So at first, I was a little apprehensive to take it on, but once I got my teeth into this thing, I'm like a dog on a bone. I'm enjoying what I'm doing with it, and it seems to work well. And I got the right person that's going to be managing this thing.
well, happily too, when President Matassa took office and he said, we need to do this. This is something that we need to have. And he started, he brought in the right people, started talking about it. When he decided to bring it over to OEP, you recognized the potential that this thing can have. And I think, honestly, there are some things that we have not yet foreseen that this program can do. And we also have the people in-house who can facilitate that for us.
Oh, one other thing that I'm working on with Brian and Brandon is that during a disaster, a hurricane, we point the call center system to a different map, and now we've got sandbag locations and barricades and all these things that we do during a disaster. The whole system just switches to emergency mode, so we're working on that now to get that through. So that's another step.
And so that's also important for people to know if in the event of an emergency, you talked about your people being cross-trained, but this Citizen Service Center will still be operational even during emergencies, because sometimes that's all the more important.
No. We don't evacuate, so when we have an emergency, what shelters open, where's the disaster recovery center, where the barricades at, where are flooded areas, places to stay out of, all that'll be going live onto the system so we can communicate as much as we can with the public, because information is powerful. So we need to get the right information in the hands of the right people at the right time.
And so not only are we getting that information to them, the information is out there, and it stays available to them, and they can follow it every step of the way. It's a great program. So once again, Rachel, how do we when a citizen wants to place a work order, place a request, what do we do?
The citizen can call the Citizen Service Center 450-1200 and speak to a representative during normal business hours. But even if you don't want a service request and you just have a question and you don't know what department or who to call, our representatives can transfer calls, our representatives can answer your questions, or we can submit a work order online. Residents can always go online and submit a work order online, or just leave a voicemail. One of our representatives will call back the next business day.
And I know what kind of training your representatives have gone through, and they are familiar with every tiny little facet of Ascension Parish.
They have really, really been a great team to
Yeah.
dig into each department and make phone calls, and they conducted training. I think we had 7, 8 training classes with employees, with departments. So before we went live on January 2nd, they really dug in to see what the need was of the residents, to see what the need was of administration and each department, because each department's needs are different.
Right.
And we didn't have a model for this, so this is something that everybody, it's been a comprehensive project for everybody in parish government. So we appreciate all of my counterparts, our directors and managers. They offered their time
Absolutely.
and,
Yeah,
and
because
how they structured
like you
it.
said, this did not exist.
Yeah.
Because I know when President Matassa, before he got elected, he was one of those supervisors. He was one of those directors, and I guess he saw how the different calls went
What the
about to
need
the different
was.
places, and he understood that there was a centralized need. So, and it's astonishing that in April of 2018, this system did not exist.
None of it.
And now January 2nd, 2019, it's live.
It's live.
And we've been going through the training. You assembled your staff, you trained them, you've been training all of the supervisors.
Within the first week or week and a half, we receive well over 100 phone calls a day.
And that's with
And
little or no
right,
publicity.
and, right,
Yeah,
and
we
multiple work orders. And now we're starting to get residents to understand the process, and they're starting to follow up on the work orders online I mean, if you want to talk to a representative, we have 3 representatives that will walk you through it or answer any questions that the residents have.
Let's ask this. What about citizens who live within the 3 municipalities of Ascension Parish?
If they live within the municipalities, we can always transfer to the city of Gonzales or Town of Sorrento and Donaldsonville. So we can transfer those calls over. It's built into the system.
So that's a built-in.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and you can identify, because sometimes I know I would speak to people and they'll say, well, I live in Gonzales, but then when you get the exact address, no, they
Exactly.
they don't live within the city limit, but you're able to track that, you're able to determine that as well.
Well, what we did when we designed the call system is that we had all government agencies listed on the computer. They answer the phone by computer. There's a headset on, and they don't answer the phone, so they answer it with their computer. So if they have a question for the assessor's office, we transfer it to the assessor's office. So all that's listed in there.
That is a great this is a really terrific service that's available to the people of Ascension Parish. I mean, it's going to simplify so many things. It will centralize so many things. It's just going to make it a lot better.
Yeah, yeah.
What did I forget? What are we?
I think we just about covered it all. I mean, I think the short time frame that we put this in, all of our counterparts, directors, supervisors, everybody involved, to put it in play is pretty phenomenal for the work that was done. It was
Everybody recognized the need for that.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah,
did, and
I
I
agree.
mean they signed on from the beginning, and I think the cooperation that you've gotten from the administration and all the different departments has really helped in the success.
I really believe in the future this is going to be a really, really important fundamental system for the parish moving forward. I haven't seen one like it in other parishes. Maybe I just hadn't looked hard enough, but I hadn't seen one like it that's as comprehensive as this one is. I know there's some versions of it, but to cover all the bases that this one covers, I think it's going to do extremely well, and it's only going to get better moving forward.
Terrific. Rachel, what did we leave out?
I mean, we're growing and we're learning. It's a learning curve for even our employees or all government departments. But I mean, the biggest push that we want to send out to residents, if you have a request, a service request, or if you just have a question and not sure who to call, you can always look at the website or call our phone number, 450-1200, and we have 3 representatives that will direct their call.
So you can talk to a live person,
Yes.
or you can go online, you can fill out that, and you can track your request throughout from the moment you call it in to the moment that it is completed. You will know exactly where you are in the system. Thank you, Rick Weber, Rachel Wilkinson, so much for being with us. Thank you for joining us. We encourage you not only to take advantage of this system for yourself if you have any questions or issues in Ascension Parish, but please share this information with your neighbors. Tell them that this is going on and this is a service that's being provided to you, the citizens of Ascension Parish. I'm Martin McConnell, the Public Information Officer. Thank you so much for joining us.